Look at them good. Tell them, say, neighbor, oh neighbor, I need some good news in a bad time. Mount Hope, in our current culture, many of us would agree that we are existing in a bad time. The climate of our current culture seems to be being controlled by the opposite of that which is good and the opposite of that which is God. For more times than not, y'all, we become aware of a bad time as a result of having received bad news. And if we would dare to be honest today and honestly examine the world today, we would find that in our inner cities, senseless murders are killing young black lives, prohibiting them from even beginning to put their fingerprint on their dreams. We would discover today, y'all, that we are dealing with disparities in communities of color due to improper medical testing and misdiagnosed sicknesses in our hospitals. In 2024, y'all, we are still contending with the suppression of voter rights that was supposed to be resolved way back in 1965. We are presently witnessing, y'all, our brown brothers and sisters living in fear, of their families being separated and mistreated as a result of discriminatory mass deportation. Currently, y'all, we are existing or experiencing a manipulative attempt to rewrite a distorted, ignorant version of American history in our children's textbooks, wherein slavery is to be depicted as having been a positive benefit for our ancestors who were in chains. We are observing, y'all, women being mistreated and overlooked and treated less than the excellence that God has created them to be. We are witnessing a current time, y'all, where a patriotic red, white, and blue version of Christianity, upholds insurrections and uses the Bible to make the claim that in moments like Charlottesville, there were good people on both sides. And lastly, y'all, we are living in a time where many of our fellow citizens seem to have made the choice, to uplift misogyny, seem to have made the choice to approve a 920-page project, and seem to have made the choice to stand by the ideology of making something great again, as if what's behind us is greater than what's ahead of us. I believe the church of old would have used this as a good place to begin to cry out saying, Father, I stretch my hand to thee. No other help I know. For if thou withdraw thyself from thee, whither shall I go? I said in no uncertain terms, y'all, we are living in the midst of all of this bad news, causing us to exist in a bad time. In our text today, y'all, we walk up on Jesus reading an ancient scroll written by the prophet Isaiah. And while he is reading, an ancient scroll from the Hebrew Bible, which we call the Old Testament, Jesus at the same time simultaneously is using these words to make a prophetic self-introduction about what God has ordained and anointed him to do. In verses 18 and 19 of chapter 4 of Luke, Jesus says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has anointed me to proclaim that captives be released, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and to proclaim that the time of the Lord's favor has come. And this prophetic good news introduction, y'all, that Jesus gives to himself is important. Why? Because, see, when Jesus says this, both he and his people are living in a bad time. Was here in this historical context of this text that in first century Galilee, that these dark-skinned original Jews of ancient Palestine, y'all, were being oppressed by the Roman Empire. They were experiencing heavy taxation. They were experiencing political instability, and they were even experiencing the social unrest due to Roman rule, which in many cases meant that there was a physical presence of Roman soldiers and Roman governors that were insensitive to the Jewish people. And so while this oppression was going on, y'all, and while this political instability was happening, Jesus shows up on the scene. Come on. And he shows up at the very start of his ministry. For it was after being baptized by John the Baptist where the Spirit of God said, "You are my son," come on, of whom I'm well pleased. It was after Jesus had been tempted in the wilderness and fasting for 40 days that now this Jesus, come on, shows up at the synagogue in Nazareth. And when he shows up at the synagogue in Nazareth, y'all, he says, "Listen, I understand that you are dealing with some unfortunate circumstances. I understand that we are existing under the earthly rule of a Roman Empire that does not have our best interest at heart. And I even understand that as a result of living through this bad time, that many of you are at the point of giving up and throwing in the towel." But Jesus says, no longer, Israel, come on, do you need to feel defeated, and no longer do you need to be depressed. Why? Because I am the one that you have read about in the prophecy of Isaiah, and I've been anointed by God to bring you good news in a bad time. And I don't know if I'm talking to anybody here on today, but is there anybody who's glad to know that you don't serve a Savior, come on, that's seated in the Oval Office, but rather you have a Savior that's seated at the right hand of God. And the Bible declares that this Savior has the assignment of giving us good news in a bad time. Come on. But our good news got up with all power in his hands. They like to call him Emmanuel. They like to call him the Rose of Sharon. They like to call him the Prince of Peace. But I like to call this good news Jesus. Is there anybody that knows the good news? I said, did he wake you up this morning? Did he start you on your way? Did he clothe you in your right mind? I said, good news, good news. Did he heal your body? Did he make a way for you out of nowhere? Did he keep you, come on, from danger seen and unseen? Well, the same good news that did it back then is the same good news that'll do it right now. Come on, stand to your feet all over this house. Listen, I just wanted to encourage us today to know, come on, that no matter what's going on in the world today, no matter what's going on in your family today, no matter what's going on in your community today, not even in the government or even in the world, come on, that God still gives us a Jesus. He's able to give us good news. Somebody just say good news. That's able to give us good news in a bad time.